because the colors, uh, when we did it, were extremely vibrant. You know, the blues and the reds, and even if they were, everything was rich. And of course, over the years, that's kind of gone. And you'd really have to go back to the negative, and probably cost a fortune. But it's not a dark horror film in the sense of a horror, you know, the horror film genre. It's because of the graphics and the murals and the Techniscope frame. I found it very exciting, and it called for a different approach. And in those years, people were afraid of the widescreen, especially like that, because of the TV. You know, the bubble was it. And for years, I had to fight that.
I'm going to take a nap.
I was very excited about the frame and the film because of the paintings and the house. I wanted to see them, and I used the paintings to frame the people, and kind of they became like if you notice, they are a personality, and they tell a story themselves as Marianne is walking through. And you know, I think the paintings are really important.
Remember the car that she drives? It's a red Volvo. That was my car. I mean, this is the kind of production it was. Willard and Gloria. It had just been painted because it had been in an accident. So the whole car had been repainted, and it looked newer than it was. And so here was this car that was available, and I think they just said, well, we'll just ask Morgan if Marianne Hill can drive his car. So when she drives into the gas station in the red Volvo with the California license plate 210 ADC, that's my car. And she complained about it. She complained that this was inappropriate to her character, or beneath her, or somehow an insult to her dignity. I forget exactly.
I don't think we had many complaints at all, if any. Walter's throat is slashed by my cousin. And I was at the set for all of that scene. We were there all night long shooting that. And it's my cousin, that's the young girl that opens the gate to the yard that Walter stumbles into near the pool, and then she slashes his throat with a razor blade. He was at the time working as an AD, an assistant director. I didn't know him. I met him for the first time that night. First time I worked with Walter was on Warriors. I sort of knew Larry Gordon, who was the producer of Warriors at the time, because I met Larry when we were doing Messiah of Evil, because I think we showed it to Larry once, because Willard used to work for Larry at AIP Pictures. And Paramount needed a third editor on Warriors. I had just finished a movie called Days of Heaven, which I had cut, and they asked me would I be available to go help out on this new Walter Hill movie called Warriors. So I did, and that's when I got reacquainted with Walter and told him, that my cousin had slashed his throat in Messiah of Evil and so on. And then I was working with Walter years later on a picture he did called Extreme Prejudice. And when I was working on Extreme Prejudice is when Messiah of Evil finally came out on video. And Gloria called me, she was up in San Francisco, called me that it had just come out on video. I immediately found it at a video store and bought it, brought it into work, and told Walter, you're not going to believe this. It's finally out on video, and I have it. He said, oh, let me take it home. I want to show it to my wife, Hildy. So he takes it home, and he says to Hildy, I got this video on this new young actor. I want you to see, what do you think of him? And he's done hardly anything, and this is just like a very low-budget horror movie, but he's in the first scene, and so we just watch it. He puts it on, she watches the whole scene, and she says, I think he's okay. She had no idea it was Walter.
Remember the truck that Benny drives? It's an orange pickup truck. That belonged to Jack Fisk, who was the art director. So, there were two on-screen vehicles that were volunteered by people who were working on the film.
Want to ride?
Really nice guy, very normal, straight ahead guy and fun. And he's wonderful in the movie. You know, I mean, he'd never acted at all. He had no desires to be an actor, and he was just doing this to make some money because so many people were out of work, and he was a pleasure to.
You like Wagner?
Oh, yeah, sure. Super. You can, let me off in town.
And I suggested to Willard that he shoot an insert of her feet stamping on the treadle to make the door open so that it would be absolutely clear that she was in fact trying to leave through the exit door, but that mysterious forces had conspired to make this impossible. And Willard said he didn't want to do it because he thought it would be ugly. And I said, well, it may be, but I think you'll need it to be clear. And he said, if you think we need it, you shoot it. So I directed the insert of Anitra Ford's feet as they come up to the door and stand on the treadle and stamp on the treadle.
We got very lucky at stuff, like, because when we did the fire stunts in the house, that was really dangerous. And the stunt guy that did the fire stunt, who became an extremely successful stuntman in Hollywood named Buddy Joe Hooker, he hit that fire stunt when Royal Dano Catches on Fire was the first fire stunt he ever did.
I just remember that we had to get the negative before the investors got it. and I knew everyone at Technicolor, and I can't remember. I remember going in. I can see it, and actually taking the boxes, and I don't know if it was because of. I'm not sure how we got in. I don't know if it was because I knew everyone there and everyone trusted me, or if it was Willard, but I loved it. Just the whole idea of taking the negative and doing it. You know, God, we could have taken anything. And years later, you know, I'd be in Deluxe or Technicolor, and there's all these boxes of like Terminator that hasn't been released. I could take this.
When I was working on Pee-wee's Big Adventure with Tim Burton, one day, out of the blue, he just asked me, so how did you get started in editing? What was the first thing you ever cut? And I said, oh, it's just a very low-budget horror movie. I'm sure you've never heard of it. Well, what was it? No, you wouldn't know. It was just very low budget, very small. What was it? So I said, well, it was a picture called Messiah of Evil. He said, I saw it at the Van Nuys Drive-In. I remember the night I saw it. So it clearly had an impact on him, because he vividly remembered it. But no one else I've ever worked with has ever heard of the movie.
Just about to feed me to the chickens. And Daddy said, maybe we could use a boy, Lottie. That's how I came into the world.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry.
I don't really know whatever happened and I don't know how it was ever released. You know, it just seems to have appeared, you know, on the internet. And I was just kind of, I guess, a bit amazed. And, you know, and I loved it. You know, people were talking about it suddenly. And even I'm living in Europe now, and people know about the Messiah of Evil. I mention it. People have been on the internet. They've seen it. It amazes me. People have actually seen it.
Today it's much more of a business, and you know, they know exactly what they want, and usually it's something that's branded, which means it was either made before or it was a ride at Disneyland or something. So there was a sort of odd period there where they were taking chances.
They're coming here. They're waiting at the edge of the city. They're peering around buildings at night. And they're waiting. They're waiting for you. And they'll take you one by one, and no one will hear you scream. No one will hear you scream.